Okay, should be me. Oh, thank goodness. So I'm just finishing up some admin stuff on the main app from yesterday. I tried to upgrade to Angular 18 and it did not go well. It created a whole lot of problems. It looks like I got it back again. So I should I should be more selective as to what I work on. That's interesting behavior. So this panel is the control from the library, and I was avoiding doing this piece because I couldn't figure out what was going wrong there. So I decided to upgrade to Angular 18, which went poorly. But I also upgraded the tools, and the tools went poorly because I couldn't figure out how to downgrade them once I'd upgraded them to Angular 18. So that was a challenge. But anyway, that's not for today. So today we will get started with a little bit of drink water just to get stuff. Mr. Jones, good afternoon. Just hope you're well. Thank you for the look. So we get this done, get that closed down, get Godot opened up, ready. We're going to start with a quick review. Good to see the games library. Close that down. Drink water, here we go. So we have a PR to review and a bit of a discussion around feature flags to do if Dota appears. Good morning from me. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. It was a good weekend. I had some fun. Thank you. We streamed on Saturday night for a couple of hours, 5 hours actually on Saturday. Did a bit of my app dev to start with, and then jumped onto some gaming on the Mr. FPGA. So I was playing some Super Nintendo games. Some Sega Genesis games. Some TurboGrafx 16. I was playing Utopia for the TurboGrafx. That was a lot of fun. That's a good RPG. Which reminds me. Is that still ridiculously expensive? Yes, it is. $170. How about you, One Lane? How was your weekend? So I want to start with this so it's done and out of the way. So I promised Dot we'd do a little bit of a review of it. And the reason I want to review it is because it's a small change. But we talked about feature flags being enabling and disabling stuff, right? And he introduced a if false and called it a feature flag, which is essentially correct. But it does beg the question as to how would you introduce feature flags, and how do you, this isn't testable now, right? Because this is never going to allow it to it's not going to let it break, but it's never going to allow it to work either. So I can't check out this code and run it without removing the false, which then I'm changing the code. So it's kind of a catch-22, I suppose. Pretty awesome. My wife and I played a couple sessions of Earthfields. I think on the last stream. I also watched June 2 last night. Nice. How's that? It's funny, I see Dune 2 and I think of the original, the pre-Command and Conquer game. Right, the precursor to Command and Conquer. I think it was... Westwood Studios, yeah. I was going to say, it's the same team that made Command and Conquer. It just came before Command and Conquer. What a game. Oh dear. Okay, close that. Close that. Close that. Update to Angular 18 from 17. Oh yeah, here's all this stuff that's deprecated. That's joyous. And we'll leave that open because I need it open. Okay, let's open this. So if Dota doesn't show up in a few minutes, then I'll continue with the game dev stuff because I want to make progress on this. And that is the focus of the stream. So, where was I last time? So last time we had my player being able to swallow the enemy bullets, the enemy projectiles. But that was it. So let's have a look at. Let's have a look at this code. No? We completely forgot that we used Rider. There you go. The movie is pretty good. I'm sure more could be said about it, but I've already gotten stuck into my work too. No worries. Absolutely no worries. Sure, I'll check it out at some point. We start to activate, of course. Nothing quite like having a plugin prevent you from starting your IDE. That's useful. This is looking pretty good. Morning, Apex. How you doing? Okay, so last time we did on unit hit. I don't know if this is actually yeah, it's remove the predator. I'm not bad. It's I was gonna wake up this morning, take the dogs for a walk, and then it started raining, and the dogs do not like going out in the rain. So that's just a fight if I try that. So I didn't get my walk in this morning. But I did make a sausage and egg sandwich, so that was good. With brown sauce. One of my British carryovers. So, this is where I'm going to get into the realm of some logic, I think, because up until now, everything's been pretty simple, right? Because up until now, I fly up the screen, I shoot the bullets, I hit an enemy tank. The enemy, when collided, invokes the event. The event is Rambling Geek. Thank you for the resubs. 6 months. Appreciate that. I need to remember that I've got a prompter as well. and put that up on the screen rather than sitting here turning around every 5 seconds. Come on. Come on, mouse. Where are you? There you go. Okay, that should be better. So, I'm not going to mess around with the restream stuff. To get restream to work, I have to go into restream, set up an event, then link it to the chat window and do all sorts of stuff just to make it restream. But then, as I learned last week, restreaming YouTube chat got messy. So if YouTube gets busy for whatever reason, if people start chatting more in YouTube, I will do that. But unless there's a clear need, I'm not going to bother. Okay. Good afternoon, Rambling Geek. Hope you are well. You on a day out? You're on a bank holiday this weekend, aren't you? So we both have the day off. Okay, so yeah, nice. So this one invokes a collision occurred. Collision occurred is an action, an event that I can listen to, and I listen to that from the scorekeeper. So the enemy triggers, hey, a collision occurred, and then when it collides with the enemy, it registers a score. So that's okay. I think for my player character, I want to be able to take a few hits. Unless I make it an actual right, days off are a thing. Yeah, they are. Like that fire rate is clearly too fast for the enemies. There's no way that's tuned available. As Dukes might say, my boss didn't give me the day off. I suppose that's the challenge of working for yourself. A day off is a day where you can't be making progress on things that you need to get done. So yeah, their rate of fire is going to slow down a little bit, but we do need to so that's the scene. We now need to kind of think about the energy of the player. So if I go into the player, so the projectile itself, all it does is cues the projectile. So the projectile, I'm not responsible for dequeuing the projectile or freeing the projectile. The projectile does it itself. We just tell it, hey, by the way, you collided with something that you need to do something with. So if there was something else this needed to do before it finished, then it'd be fine. Like if I wanted to play a different animation or something, like if it hit something and it wanted to do a fancy explosion or something, I could do that in here without the yeah. Okay. I'll worry about naming and stuff later because I'm clearly all over the place, right? So on my player, and again, I'm going to make this up as I go along, right? I'm going to kind of figure it out, see if it makes sense. So on my player, let's do export private float health. Let's go with that for now. And so if I implement this for, I'm trying to think of the ordering I want to implement things in, and now I'm starting to see that because there's so many different paths that can happen, I could go down one entire path and completely ignore another with this. Whereas with my app stuff, I'm focused on, oh, I'm implementing a feature, but one feature might have many effects here. So if I do if a projectile has damage, right? Yeah, I can't do that. That seems janky, but we'll see. That's the sort of thing where I'm going to do things that are kind of not advised or whatever. If health is less than or equal to 0, then I'm thinking I want to register, like call an event here and then just end the player character. So on the enemy, I have, and this is probably not right anymore, the ending animation. So it has animation. It's a graphic that shows over the top of the enemy. I probably want to do something like that eventually, but let's go there. Enemy, yeah. Let's create an event that takes an player See, I don't like doing that because my concern there is if I invoke that and pass this through, I immediately free the queue for this, right? So wow, that was quite the inversion, right, Ryder? So if I do this, queue free on death occurred, then I've got an issue because now I invoke this death occurred, pass this through to it, but then I immediately clear it. So if that runs even in parallel at all, I assume it'll run synchronously, so it'll do whatever's in here and then it'll do queue free. But if I do anything like that, then I'm going to end up with a problem. So game manager, I'm going to do something similar to this. Enter tree, override, ready. So this would be so the challenge there is if I want to get hold of the player. Now game manager is attached to the main scene, so I know it's in here, right? And it knows it's in here. Player is a child node of camera 2D. I could group it, right? I could create a new group, players, add that, and then add camera 2D player to that. That does have the player script attached to it, I believe, yeah. So that is a player. I've got a feeling this is going to create an issue for memory, but we'll see. We only have one player, so I'm not going to worry about keeping an array right this second. I'm going to have private. Actually, we don't. Player equals get tree players of type dot single. What don't you like there? Oh, derp. That'd be why. And then player dot on death occurred equals on player death. Okay. So our camera script, don't need that. So what I'm thinking here is I need to put a public void stop. But that does on camera stopped. This doesn't actually control the stop. On camera stopped. Because that is basically game manager. It sets that. So we can just do is camera stopped equals true. And it'll stop moving it. I don't like the multiple paths to get into that. That doesn't feel great. So player. So create new scene. Game over. Add child. Rich text level. Okay. Game over. Fit content. layout. Oh, I need to put it in H box. Right, this gets confusing now, doesn't it? Alignment center. Add channel V box. Alignment center. Get to learn how to center text in the screen with Godot. Okay, so center text on screen, Godot. Don't want to do it programmatically. There's got to be a way. Godot, but rich text box in middle of screen. Okay. I don't feel like it can really lead me astray using AI for this. How do I center a rich text box in the center in the screen in Godot? Yeah, but so nest the label in HBots, so HBots alignment to center. Nest the HBots in a VBots, place the HBots containing label instead of VBots, set the VBots alignment to center. I feel like I kind of did that. Add child node, rich text label, hello world. Okay. That feels like it just kind of, yeah, I think the word is there, it's just squished, so we need to expand that. Visibility ordering. We do that, yeah. So we've got our hello world vertically centered. When we do that, it's horizontally squished because it's, if we do that, it's down there now. Layout, because if we do begin end center. It's definitely there. And that definitely changes that. I feel like I don't want to use BB code for it. Layout. Oh, there we go. That's great, but it's vertically aligned. I just want to put game over in the middle of the screen. So that is a V box with alignment center, an H box with alignment center, a rich text label with fit content on, and clip contents off. Transform, container sizing, expand. There we go. Horizontal fill, expand. There we go. That's better. I mean, it's pretty much where we were, right? But horizontal, vertical. This doesn't change much. Oh. Is that like flex, stretch ratio? So we take that off, we expand it. Shrink begin, shrink center, shrink end, fill. Because, I mean, that works, I suppose, for what I'm doing. Game over. Theme, fonts, load, font sizes, game over, styles, colors, font shadow, do I think it's perfect? No. Okay, so now I think I need a game over screen in Game Manager. Let's see. So that would be export, private, backscene, game over scene. Let's try that. So now if I go back here and drag there, then in Game Manager, on player death, is camera stopped? game over scene dot so what I'm, okay, let me try it the way that I think I want to try it, and then we'll see how I fail. Game over equals instantiate, right, and then add child. Game over. Obviously, there's more to do, but let's see if that works. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10. It stopped and it loaded. I mean, obviously I've got a scaling issue, but it did do it. So how do I fit this to the current screen is the question. So using Godot, how do I when I add a scene, can you transform it? I thought scale was dependent on the parent node. Well, actually, let me see where it. Let's do this. Let's do. Let's go back to main scene. Let's go back to player. Let's set health to 50. So I'm moving onto the screen a little bit, right? But I'm going to die quicker. So let's, because it stops the camera. No, it's not showing. That's not good. Remote, main, game over. So it's in the scene. Does that need to be right click, make same a view window or game window? I'd have to start the game in that mode. Window, full screen. Yeah. No, I get it, Rumble Geek. It's fine. I appreciate the parent it to the camera. If you want to test, you can right click on the camera and click instantiate from child. Gotcha. Okay, so attach it to the camera node, which I think is possible because I think my game manager knows that. So, so I do want to do camera dot add child, and there. Let's just do it that way. Let's try that. You could do it without changing the code, but that doesn't teach me what I need to do in the code, does it? And I can just fumble through on the. Okay, so that doesn't work. You can right click the camera and click instantiate from child. At runtime or. I'll just add it in now, like this. Yeah, but that's not working, is it? Yeah, so remove that. So let's do. So the problem is the camera has zoom. Game over. Transform. Loading Godot. Nice. Well, if you want this code rambling geek, you're more than welcome to have it as well. So clearly the scale was off, right? So how do I apply when I add a scene, the child scene, the scale is in Godot is wrong. How do I size it to the current camera? No, there's no camera in the child. So, but I mean, there's no. This has no concept of the viewport, right? And I also like that since I did that the first time, I haven't actually seen game over appear up here either. So if we do camera, instantiate child scene, game over scene, right? It drops it to the end of my camera 2D. Ah. So it's like it makes it. Where does it spawn it? It spawns it in the center of the screen. But it spawns it relative 0, 0 to the center of the screen. But it's also way too big. So because the camera is there, isn't it? Whereas I want to make it. And that's the first difference. That's the first change I made. So again, let's remove the game over there. Yeah, the camera's there in the center. So the first change I made was to attach it to the camera instead of the child. Game over. See that. Game over scene dot. Oh, but it's because it's not a node 2D, is it? But that's not going to do... Hold on. I think I know why. That's not going to fail until runtime doing it that way, though. Did it add it in? No. Failed to add it in. It didn't error, though. That's interesting. Didn't do it, but it didn't error. So this version should add it, and I should see it on the screen, because it's going to add it relative to... Well, let's have a look. Because I think this is the one that showed it on the screen. No, I'm wrong again. Oh, there's game over. Okay, so game over's there. Node 2D. It's not visible. You can't change that. Because that's this that I'm seeing it in. Let me just move that over there a second. True. That was the other change, right? Game over, z index 0. Z is relative. If true, the node z index is relative to its parent z index. If this node's z index is 2 and its parent's effective z index is 3, then this node's effective z index will be 2 plus 3. So I want it to be above my parent, right? Because it should be on top. Unless I'm not understanding how that works. Okay, so we have a game over screen in there. Main. And the problem is we don't know where it puts it, do it? Because this doesn't show. This is not showing the current game screen like Unity has the editor in there, so you can kind of see where everything is. Let's put that back once more. Invalid owner. Okay, so still nothing there. Remote has the game over. Oh, it is there though, but it's behind. Because that's put that in, hasn't it? Because I didn't add it as a child myself. It's removed all the player and stuff, that's fine. Hey, Captain Fruitbar, how you doing? Good day. Game doodling's going okay. We're playing around with popping up a game over screen when I take too much damage. Why is that still in there? Why are you still there? That was weird. Does it need to be child of the world map to be above it? The world map is... I mean, I have access to all that from the game manager, right? Because it is a no-all class. How to get the score to show? Game info is applied as a child of camera 2D. That locks it in place on the camera as well. That's scoring script assigned. I don't need scorekeeper there, I don't think. Hey RSM, how you doing? Good day. Yep, first chat of the day on YouTube. YouTube is generally a lot quieter. So, welcome in. Would it make sense to put game over there, add game over as a child of game over? So this is a canvas layer. Oh, so, okay. So the problem is game over here is a change type canvas layer. There you go. Thank you, Captain Fubar. Nice. Okay, so if I add anything that's going to have the text, etc., it should be a canvas layer. And then I can attach it. And even though that was attached to the actual game screen, it automatically becomes part of that. So there you go. So for anyone new, anyone joining, I am normally an app developer. I spend a lot of time doing app development. I've not really got very far with game development before, even though it's a field that does fascinate me. And yeah, so I'm trying to make my way through a little shoot 'em up game that I'm kind of making up as I go along, trying to get some mechanics in, such as a game over screen, such as other things. Yeah. that was pretty cool that they get going down the screen. So game over. Canvas layer makes it irrelevant that the camera transform will render in a second draw call. Okay. Cool. Well, we have some progress made there. So we know that. Let's go to our enemies. If you want to use an alternative form, taking advantage of Godot system, use UI as an auto-loaded singleton scene. I'll worry about that later. That's probably better for me to do it that way. Okay, so my enemy script has enemies, tank. So tank has a cannon. Cannon has. Need to figure out the fire rate. I read about that pattern. Yeah. I mean, I know that I'm gonna end up with. What is that? What is that? Just drawing random. Will always be rendered last, will be independent of scene changes, can handle scene transitions better, keeps his values persistent, etc. Main advantage is an auto-loaded singleton. Ah, the singleton. Yeah, I mean, well, my goal, I mean, I really want to progress to the point where I understand more of those concepts, and I think for right now my focus is let's get me the next step would be to see if I can finish the level, right? So I know when I've finished, and ultimately transition to a new scene. How do I do this now? So the timer. Yeah, there's the problem. That should slow down the speed of the tanks firing. That's not, obviously that's not where I want to go. Cannon has a bullet scene. Bullet scene has an enemy fire. Enemy fire has a speed. 90. I think I've got to review. Yeah, it's still way too fast. That hit me then. Game over. Okay. So I think the configuration there is janky in that I have to go all the way down to the actual projectile to set the speed of the projectile. How about a fire pattern, burst, irregular fire mode, etc.? That'd be cool. I think what I want to do next is trying to fire at the player. So I know that the sprite is going to look janky. I keep using that word because it seems appropriate. The sprite is going to look weird because it's just going to come. The turret isn't going to turn. It's just going to go blip. But I think I want to aim at the player. The cannon should say yes, agree. So there's some structuring problems there. Let me commit this. Game over. Player can take damage and It's testing something. I can fix it using different texture areas of the same sprite. Yeah, it's funny. I just know there's so much to do. Including I think I just made a colossal mistake. I think this repository is too big. No, there's no compile code in there. So in the hold on. I've just uploaded those sprite sheets. Game starter kit, Kenny. I should have used Tiny Battle. That's more like Tiny Town plus Tiny Battle seems to be more sorcery. Pixel Shmup. There we go. Creative Commons. I just want to make sure that, because I've just uploaded those sprite sheets, I don't want to have an issue with any. No copyright, copy, modify, distribute, and perform the working with commercial. So I have no requirement to link back to or acknowledge. However, I will do that at some point. Can I do this? New solution folder, docs, add existing item. Add readme. It's a nice permissive license. I would like to at least acknowledge that I'm getting them from there. So, if you are interested at all, as I do with everything, as I do with most things stream related, not everything stream related, but if I can share it, I will do. The code as it currently stands is right there. And you can do what you want with it. Hi, Ananth. How you doing? Okay, so let's try and make some progress. So what I want to do now is figure out where is the player, right? So I suppose now I get into a new world of knowledge, in that, you know, where where is the player and where is the enemy and where should I fire from, right? So in a typical shoot 'em up, it's not like there's a radar or anything. It's not like there's an area of effect. So it's not like I fly into an area and it starts firing. Most shoot 'em ups, things will be shooting at you the moment you come on screen, and they'll be pointing right at you. The only thing is they're not smart. They don't kind of trace you. They just kind of fire at where your position is, and that's where they will continue to fire. So you'll end up with arcs of bullets to avoid, right? And at the current rate, I'll last about 3 seconds before I actually I'm done, and that's mainly because the fire rate is at 0.9 seconds. Because the moment these two start firing at me, I'm in trouble, and then this third one starts. Yeah. So how do I do that? So the enemy fires on a timer, and that is the cannon will fire. So what we want to do is we want to fire with a trajectory, right, or a vector. This is where I get into, I have no idea, but let's have a look. Thank you, Cartoon Fubar. I appreciate it. As difficult as the struggle may be here, I think it's probably worthwhile me trying to figure it out myself and then asking for help when I'm ready. Because this is stuff I've never thought to do. Ultimately, I want to say, okay, calculate. Because I want to take my position, the enemy position, know the player position, and that should give me a direction. So it's just taking the vector of the... yeah, okay, so it's just subtracting... yeah, okay. So when I go to fire, I want to know where the player is. And that's the challenge. Let's have a look. So my enemies are not spawned. If they were spawned, that'd be... I could kind of give them something that knows about the player and tracks it. Because it feels wrong to say, hey, attach a player object to the enemy and then drag and drop the player to every enemy, because that just doesn't feel clean. Oh, by the way, I should remember that I'm pasting in YouTube at the same time. So this is what I'm working on right now. This is the game that I'm building. It's just a learning exercise. Try and get something produced and understand some of the mechanics and kind of repeat them enough that I am comfortable with how Godot works and how I could build something so I can move to more ambitious projects in the future. But I've been a developer a long time, but I've never done real game development, so Sorry, I just had a... I'm going to do something. If it makes you cringe, I apologize. But let's see if it works. New script. Yeah, I did just do that. Export public player public. I think that still needs to be vector 2i. So player position, return. No, I want to return. So now so 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want to take the player position minus the current position. Player position minus current position. That's a okay. That's a vector 2. Okay, so that's okay. No, it can't be made private. Okay. Add child node. Node. Attach radar. So the enemies won't care about what they're aiming at. They'll just be told, here's what you're aiming at, is the goal there. Whether this is a good idea or not, I have no idea. Export. Private. Radar. So then radar there. Then enemies. Let's go build. So there we need our radar. Don't suppose you can do that, can you? No. Nice idea. I can kind of see why you'd want to do it in code. I mean, if I was spawning these, I'd have to create something that spawns them and then attaches them anyway. All that'd have to be set up. So then the radar itself needs the player. Right. And then fire should take a vector 2 direction. Oh, actually, it's a vector, right? Then the projectile itself. Enemy projectile. So again, now this vector needs to be applied. set origin. So this needs a protected vector to if you set a direction, you kind of can see it. Yeah, I'm thinking. So the right now it's set origin. I think that changes to be because it needs a. It comes the weapon and the vector. There's no point creating different methods for them, right? And it is literally a firing vector. Default to that. It wants that's a protected naming style. We need a no. We do want a different. Oh, I kind of want that. I don't want to implement it, but because now I have to implement it on both, even if I don't need it. But then again, I need to review that anyway, right? I need to. That design is poor. Firing vector equals vector, right? If we go back to projectile, so now player projectile is going to do that, but we're never going to set the vector. Maybe we are. So in this case, there's absolutely no, being that I'm going to have to implement it on both, there's absolutely no benefit in doing it that way. This doesn't need to be that way. Right? And that's where they start to diverge, right? Where now they've got that behavior that's kind of messy. And then this needs a firing vector. So this will be radar get target. Then it needs my position. Could make firing vector pull it read only. I could, yeah, I could instead of doing it that way. But I think this design, as we've identified, is probably not a good thing anyway. So, yeah, so that should on fire now on cannon fire. It should do that, and then it should do bullet dot set vector direction. Actually, which again, it is a vector, right? Hey, Toastawave, how you doing? I'm making a little shoot 'em up, just to try and get my head around some of the mechanics. You know, fail a few times, succeed a few times. You know, hack things together in places if needed. Vector 2.up. So now the player can shoot in different directions as well. So I'm kind of making it up as I go along. You know, I'm going to make some mistakes. Okay, so let's see if this even goes remotely close. Oh no. They're firing, but they're ending. radar, enemy. So the radar gives us the ability to say, okay, fire at something different. So if I put 2 players on, I could actually calculate which player is closest to where they should fire at. It also means that the enemy does not know about the player. So it's an abstraction that kind of works. So on firing time, if I get target, we get the position. This will only fire the first time, so let's figure it out. Okay. So our current position is 120, 40, 22. Our position is negative 125. They're not in the same, are they? One's global, one's... So I think that's given a... negative 245, negative 924. Yeah. That's not doing what I want it to do, is it? I don't think that's what I want either. Maybe. C# in Godot hurts me. Also toaster wave. So still the same behavior. Enemy. Okay, so let's do var vector equals that. Vector gd.print. Vector. Yeah, I think they're not. I don't know why they should be. I mean, I can do global position, but I think that translation is not going to work the same way. So let's have a look. Oh, there you go. Negative 61, negative, yeah. So position. So if you're running in this debugger, you get the debug statements in here. Negative. So the problem is they're going back up into the enemy and striking it. So their emitter. So let's do. Do I want to flip them? C# supposed to have a big performance boost though. Okay, that looks healthier. Kind of. Oh, normalize. You need to normalize direction vectors. Oh, so this needs that. Yay! Okay, because up is 1 0 or 0 1 or whatever, yeah, or 0 negative 1 or whatever. Gotcha. I need them. Okay, so I need them in the positive number. Okay, I get that. Current position minus player position. So what should this be position then? Let's have a look. I mean, getting the method name. Hi Delta, how you doing? Yeah, I was online at 7 a.m. I did start the stream and spent the first 25 minutes trying to review that. Sorry. Yeah, it's Memorial Day. So the chance for a little longer of a stream. Ah, nice. So 0.2 minus 0.1. So if my position, so let's change that back to global position and see if it changes the behavior. So it's as if they're just always, that doesn't make a difference to the direction at all. And as for the get in the name, there you go. Yeah, we're about to have thunderstorms this afternoon, so even though we've got burgers and stuff, no barbecue for me. So the player, the enemy is not feeding in the global position, it's feeding in its current position. If we do global position, let's see what happens. Yeah, I'd prefer to start the stream with it, because then if I move into any game dev stuff, it's not a diversion, because now if I switch over to app dev, it's kind of the stream's a lie. So let's do tomorrow if we can. Normally you're around earlier in that stream, so that's why. But yeah, you took a day. You took a day, I get that. Wow, why do I click everything? Yeah, I was reading. Nice. I'm going to read my UX book today. Okay. So it's as if it's not accounting for the player position at all. Brilliant, thanks for the feedback on chapter 5 now. Nice, yeah, you posted that in the... Is that the one you posted in? That was Agile Software Adventures. Watching videos at 1.5. If you don't barbecue on Memorial Day, you're basically spitting on veterans' graves. So, player position. Hold on, I need to wrap my brain around this one. So if I'm the player at 1-2 and my enemy is at 4-6, I'm trying to set the vector from my enemy to my player. We'll print the vector between 0.1 and 0.2, which is vector 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I just need to catch up on that stuff, though. It's like I spent a good chunk of yesterday trying to get my app back up and running after trying to upgrade to Angular 18. Just because I had another issue. So if I'm calculating, I want to give this a vector to itself, to my player. So I want the... Even if I feed these in as position, even if they're both position, let's give that a go. Position. Do you prefer Gemini over GPT? Gemini's given me more consistent results of late. GPT has been a bit more random. Gemini also seems to be a little bit more up to date on some coding stuff, so yeah. The actual video I rewatched for 3 to 4 days before I got a chance to do it. Yeah, so Gemini is Google. Google Gemini. Let's see, because ultimately, I mean, what I'm really looking for is it to go in the opposite direction to tell me that it's actually firing at my player, right? Because if I'm calculating the vector wrong, then it'd be reversed. That looks healthier. But this is going to do the same thing now. This is not going to... It's going to fire down. But it should be aiming at my player. There's one called Find that's got access to a lot more coding documentation. It's supposed to be more for devs. Nice, I'll give that a look at sometime. Find intelligent answer engine. That looks like Gemini. The styling is almost identical. Godot. Why? Oh, that'd be way too easy. You can use direction 2 method available for Node 2D. I don't like using LLMs for development and coding directly. Too inaccurate, not precise. Code consistently with bugs in it. I'd rather have written it and understand it better. I don't use it to do the coding for me. I think a lot of people are using it in terms of it's basically a better prompt than trying to find what you need on like Stack Overflow or traditional sites, right? Like I'm not relying on it to code off of. I'm relying on it to So Godot has an entire page on vector math Right. So what I was trying there, I just tried find off screen, and look, tank robot. Find suggested that I use direction two, but direction two is not a method. Right. So that's what I was trying to do there. So go away. It might not be a bad idea to give this a node 2D anyway. Direction 2 is a method on node 2D. On vector 2. There we go. So find told me, so again, find told me that that was on a node 2D, not on a vector 2. So, yeah. Player dot position. Now, is that a normalized vector? Is that a, yep. Let's see if that's any more accurate. I got my hands on a local alarm called LawChat. Oh, that sounds like a bad idea. I don't know if you've seen the recent articles about Google's okay, acquire target. So is it more that? But that's going to come up with the same thing, right? That's going to be just from seeing that, it's going to behave the exact same way. So what's not changing there? My player. Is jokes. That's offset, isn't it, every time? What is the rest of the math? The math, when the enemy fires, the cannon fires, right? The cannon sets the projectile has its math, and that math is firing vector times speed times delta. For positions, so, okay. So, global position. So now they're both global position. Missing something simple. Radar gd.print player. That's what I'm thinking of. I think I don't do it. Is that a static reference? No, that's moving. That's catching the movement. How do I player set in position? But obviously my global position is set. Yeah. So that is the cannon fire. I set the vector when I fire. The radar is for the enemies. The enemies have the radar attached to them. The radar holds a reference to the player. Just realized I'm being wildly inconsistent on those things as well. That's funny. So when the cannon fires, it is at acquired target. Actually, put that back. I need to log it. The logging's at least helpful for me here. I can see if I make massive changes. So when I acquire target, vector to point towards. So I mean that is wrong. Current position. That should be that, because that's. I want my current position to point towards the global position of the player. But if I do that, they fire upwards. But they're still not affected by my player position. Current positions, yeah, global position, yeah. Global position of the enemy itself. Support position global. Well, the radar has no position. The radar could be static for all of these in here, but well, it couldn't be because I've obviously got the player attached to it. But it's a single instance with the player attached, so I can get the current position of the player, and then I don't have a hard reference from the enemy to the player. Just seemed like a logical, yeah. So the enemy acquires its target from the radar and then fires at the target. Then I can decouple the enemy from the player. This is typical use for me. What does consistency mean in software development? So again, with this sort of stuff, when it comes down to opinions and stuff, where it's pulling this from is the challenge, right? Because it's I don't know if you saw the Google search issues where it's basically recommending people drink bleach and stuff. Yeah, I get what you're doing there. So there's all sorts, because it's picking up weird stuff from around the internet and merging it in as actual advice. So that's the big problem we have. So you have to have common sense when you're reading that stuff, because that could give you a lot of advice that you think, oh, that makes sense, and then you find someone again. It's yeah. Morning, Ryan. How you doing? Good already. So and I think that's the big advice with using AI for anything right now is, okay, you might be able to get a nudge in the right direction. You might get the right information, but you've got to validate what you read. And they've deliberately ignored certain sources. But if a respected source quotes something as a joke, it doesn't know that that's a joke either. And so in one instance, an Onion article was used because it was referred to from a respectable source as data. So you've got to again, you've got to validate what you see. Again, one AI suggested that, but was on the completely different component. Okay, so if I do, so direction 2, the other vector to point towards from this vector. So I want to go from this vector to that vector. They're both passed in as global positions. Even if I pass in node 2D source, right? Just so I can better tweak that inside of it. So I can acquire target from this. The movement code of the bullet. And that's the player, but the enemy projectile is that. They both use firing, but these now don't need to be part of anything specific. Most of this can go back down to being projectile. Yeah. So this will give a normalized vector. So with it, so direction 2. Yeah, this dot, so it's 2.x minus this dot x, 2 dot normalized. That's what direction 2 does. I suppose that's quicker than doing because obviously vector 2 will have an operator for negate, so you can do vector minus vector. It's just quicker to do it that way than it is to do it. But if I've got 1, 2, and 3, 4, why do you not do? What's the right way to do this? So they're firing up, but they're also not taking into account the movement at all. Like they're moving. I'm missing something very obvious, I feel. Like no two numbers are the same, so it's not like it's not updating a position. Let's do this. Let's go back here. If I hide all these, does it stop them being in the scene when I run it? It does. Okay, so now I don't have as much noise. You're suspicious of your Y value for play position. Yeah, it should lower, right? But if I do gd.print player position, can I show my player scene? There's the player is in here relative to the camera. It's not a scene unto itself. I didn't make a scene out of it yet. I didn't know that part. I suppose I could, right? Yeah. So that's my player. Ah. Why does it do this big... What is that? Now that has nothing in it. I condom broke it. Why is it a child of camera? It was a child of camera because... Why is it a child of camera? Oh, there's no canon assigned. It was a child of camera because thing I can't remember. As a drop for work, thank you for the stream today. Apex, thank you very much for hanging out. Thank you for the help and the chat. Appreciate you being here. Hopefully I'll get this working before I finish the stream today. That would be great progress. Have a great day at work. Apex also streams. Getting back into the schedule. I would recommend stopping by his stream. It's nice and chill. And he's tinkering right now with moving kind of AI, and also does a lot of unit tests and stuff inside of Godot, which is pretty cool to watch. Okay, so that's a side effect. So if I go back to my main scene now, so that's relative to that point. So that would throw everything off, wouldn't it? So if I move my player outside of there, and then, but why would everything be in? Why does that disappear when I make it 0, 0? Thank you for the look, Ryan. That's why it's part. That's why it's part of the scene. That's why it's part of the camera. So it tracks with it. I'm in scale mode. What? It's so it keeps, so it attaches to when as the camera moves at the screen, the player should go with it. I shouldn't be falling off the screen. Why is it in scale mode? Say normal instrument. Okay. Yeah, right now the camera's moving. That was my approach to start with. So normally you keep the camera static and move the map. Okay. That's interesting. But that transform there's going to screw with the... But does that change the... I mean, that's just its position, but my global position doesn't change. And that's because now the main scene, the radar, has no player attached to it. That's fine. Now that should be better. Okay, so realistically, the camera shouldn't move. Actually, that might not be a difficult change to make. Because right now I set that. But I have world map. Does that? Does that do the same thing? That still keeps me off there. But now the player can go there. Player transform. Make the enemies child of the map. Okay. World map. What is the root node? Oh, but because I just made it a grouping. Okay, so if I make that node, so... No, not what I wanted to do. I was using it kind of like I would do with Unity. Whoa, where are you? Whoa. How do I keep landing in scale mode? Okay, apart from the literal... why are you now... Oh, because now all the scaling's off because the scaling was... Enemies, tank scene, tank. No, oh, that's fine. Now my enemy's too small. For easier placement, if you're already using a tile map, you can use the enemy scene as a tile map supports scene collection to be used as tile. Okay. So I can tile that in there. So much to learn. Either way, that is not doing what I want it to do now. Can worry about the scaling. So they're firing still. My player position's okay. My player position looks healthier. Let's go and print. So when the camera stop hits, then it should stop moving. That's the goal. So it should still work, because that's just saying stop moving. But we can refactor that later. Enemy acquire target, player position, gd.print. Well, they're way off. They're not even in the same coordinates, are they? But global position is not relative to anything, is it? But that would suggest they are. That's okay. So that's so then that changes. So initially I'd set the camera zoom to 2.8, which changed that, but now that's now to the aiming for the player. You really don't need that radar script. The easiest way to get a player reference is by passing it as export var in the root node level. But I mean that's okay. So instead of having something that just says, "Hey, here's your target," we say, "Okay, you exactly know exactly where the player is." So don't. Okay, let me. That needs to fix that. That fixes that scale. The bullet scene. So the bullet knows where the player is. This is my problem with game dev stuff. Because the bullet shouldn't, yeah. Yeah, that's the least of my worries, right? The rotation on the enemy, but the enemy projectile is the least of the challenges right the second. Let's see if that fixes that back up so it's at least at the right scale. My tanks need to be a little bit bigger. They're still at least colliding. But so hold on. So your suggestion is that the bullet, so the projectile itself changes to have well, again, the projectile doesn't do anything. The firing vector. So you're saying owner dot player, say. No, I get that. I don't have that, but owner is a node. It's just a random node. How do I tell it that you are? So you're saying on the main scene on here. Right, but it doesn't have. How does it know player exists? Is what I'm saying. Do I have to cast it to the right type? Because my main node is game manager. Morning, Patrick, by the way. Yeah, okay. So game manager is my root node. I create an export var there, right? But now in enemy projectile, then I can say owner dot. I can't do that because I have to say owner as game manager dot player dot global position, right? Which I'm not going to do there because that cast would be not something I want to do every single time. I don't know. I'm seeing so many different styles of this. It's not even funny at this point. Sorry, I instinctively made it private because it's that way. And so then back in here, this concept of everything has to know about everything is where I get stuck and why I fight against it, because it's just not something I normally do. This idea that the base of everything knows about everything and everything can access it via dot properties is kind of counterintuitive to the way I would normally develop, right? So that's why I'm pushing. So the bullet doesn't need to know anything. I don't need to be dumb. The bullet doesn't need to be dumb. The bullet can be intelligent enough to know that there's the player in the scene. Right. So then the player is there. And now my projectile itself my projectile itself could have player. And then I can do owner as game manager dot player on ready. And then that happens there. Because I need to know it's a game manager node. It's not just a node. Yeah, the owner node, but then right, so var direction equals global position dot direction to player dot global position. I get doing this, but I don't get how it changes this behavior. I still think it's wrong. Unless that now gives different coordinate systems. So the radar is just a decoupling, right? This way the enemy isn't determining where it's firing. The bullet at the time it fires is actually. But hold on, this is bad because now it'll trace the player. Because it'll calculate the direction every time. Now it'll chase me. Oh no, it won't. It'll just stick there. And error. No reference, okay. But that would be bad because no. I don't want it that advanced. Because then every bullet is going to chase the player. I want to, at the point of determining I need to fire, say, where am I aiming and fire in that direction. So basically, if I fly up, the bullets are going to chase me. It's the overlap of enemy fire that's the difficulty in the shooter. It's not if the bullets chase me, I'm in trouble because it will always, that's a homing missile of a bullet to do that. If I wanted to change that, I can still do that and do firing vector equals dot I can still calculate the vector that way, right? Enemy fire vector, we can just comment that out, and that way I don't need that. So now the firing vector is set there. The difficulty there is the player. I can't fire the player at a second. That's going to cause an issue. I'm missing some references, probably from dragging and dropping things around. Player world map. Either that didn't calculate. possible null reference. But it needs to be cast. Var if not target, if target null. No target, no target, no target, no target. So it gets them every intermittently. Either that or the no, because the bullets was doing it, not me. So this way, so the challenge I've introduced doing that is that I now need to change these around because they're not inherited. So when I do this, when the cannon sets the vector, hold on. No, that should work because it sets origin first. And set origin. No, position. That will automatically be called position. Oh, hold on. I may have found a problem. I think there was a reason why one was position and one was global position, and that might be my problem. It's still firing up though. Why are you only firing when I'm off the screen now? That's really weird. I know. So doing it this way, I don't need that. I don't need that. That doesn't need anything there. That doesn't need anything there. The projectile itself. So the enemy projectile needs the overrides, and this is where this gets funky. So I was setting this to global, to position on the enemy and player global position. So the enemy projectile override ready. Private player target equals owner as game manager, because that's the root node. Dot player Then if not target, if target is null, gd.print. So a lot of me moving back and forth between the styles of my variable declarations is just getting my head around. Let's say equals global position dot direction to target dot global position. That shouldn't be yellow. Oh, it should. Right now it should. No, it should not. So now player doesn't need that. The default vector will be up. The enemy projectile specializes, whereas the regular projectile. Oh, we still need to do base. Base dot ready. That can go away. That can go away. That can go away. I'm committing. I'm just going to do it. Because I get why this is easier, because it just means that I don't have a lot of references. Yeah, I'm just cleaning it up. I'll figure that out as soon as I've cleaned it up. So I don't want to end up with a bunch of code that's kind of merged all these ideas together. So I get why this is quicker in some respects, because now I don't have to worry. The moment I fire a projectile, it will figure out the player and set its vector. It just from a understanding and design perspective, it feels cleaner to have the radar in there. Player not found, player not found, player. So it's trying to fire and it can't find the player. So the cannon, let's do this. Yeah, it just feels unnatural from an ownership perspective, right? So owner is null. Like the bullet itself, like if we're thinking about it, modeling it, right? The bullet itself has no idea. It's just ejected from a cannon. The cannon is aimed at a thing. And that's what I was designing that like. So the cannon had a radar attached to it, or rather the enemy had a radar attached to it, and the cannon would aim at the thing it was told to aim at. If I had multiple players on the screen, then that would work from a decision perspective. So from a design perspective, that feels more online with what I would do, because it puts the ownership in the right places. The bullet knowing where the player is and firing at the player just seems counterintuitive, even though it's a little simpler in terms of getting the job done. So the issue is owner is null. I assume that is something to do with this. When is owner set? When it's on the scene tree. On add child object after it when it's on the scene tree. So that will add it into the scene, right? But owner is not being set. When is ready fire? Do I need to do... Do I need to do this here? Owner's still no. Do I have to explicitly set the owner? So ready is called when it is ready, not when it's added to the scene tree. So this doesn't set origin, just literally attaches the bullet to the thing, and then we add the child to the cannon. The cannon is in the enemy. Let's go and look at that. Let's see what the owner of this one is. Owner is the tank in this case. So I'd have to go right up the tree. So we're going to do get tree dot current scene as game manager. This feels very, again, from a tight coupling perspective, this is very tightly coupled, which is kind of why I tease Canny about this stuff, because it's like you can't avoid it. Okay, so it's not firing now, but it's not erroring. But they're still firing in the opposite direction to what they should. And they're only firing when I'm past them now. Oh, that's why, because the... Right. If I do that, does that change the behavior? Kinda. That's weird. Why does the origin have any bearing on whether it should fire or not? Yeah, they are firing, but only... So if I change this to position, they fire... If I change this to global position, they only fire when I'm past them. There's nothing telling them to be smart about that. Oh, the timer. When I set them to global position, it's determining they're off screen. Because they're... No. The visibility stuff is odd. Ugh. Mr. Anhorn, good morning. So when I tell them, when I set the projectile, I set it to position of the weapon. If I do that, then they start firing immediately. Because the notifier is calculating them as on the screen. So the firing timer starts. If I set them to global position, then they're not determined as being on the screen until after I pass them. Coordinate systems. So it's getting the player now, doing it that way. So to me, this feels more expensive because I'm acquiring it every single time I fire a bullet, whereas previously I had one reference to the player and the radar tracked that player, and when I went to fire, I just asked it for a set of coordinates to fire to. So this behavior is not changing whatsoever. Global position should take care of different node hierarchies, but it definitely changes the behavior of the way I'm doing. Maybe again I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I'm doing it in terms of, to me, the visibility notifier says that I'm on screen, therefore I should fire. Right, that's the idea there. So it starts firing, and when it's not on screen, it's just stop the timer. Right, on visibility changed. So if we go here and here, we're on the screen. We're on the screen. So now we're firing. We're firing. We're firing. We're firing. Now we stop firing. And we start firing. Okay, so that's fine. No, before I passed the radar to the tank. So the tank had access to radar. The tank did not know where the player was. The tank was being told, fire at this position, when it got told to fire. Not using the... So now let's change that to... So enemy projectile now. So that's with position. Now let's set global position. Why does this have any... This shouldn't have any bearing on the behavior of the tank. Okay, so that works. But they're not firing now. Now when they go off screen, they start firing, but there's no reason they should start firing. Position is always relative to the parent, in the tank's case, in relation to the tar map. Right, but that's... the problem there is the behavior changes if I change the position of the projectile. Like, why does that change anything? Weapon is the cannon. The cannon is attached to the tank. The tank is in the scene. Why does that have any bearing on the behavior of this, which clearly changes it? Why does how I set my projectile change that at all? Unless that's a reference and it's changing. No. No. That doesn't... That moves. That's not a copy, is it? Can you create a vector? That doesn't change the position of anything. But that would explain that behavior. When do I call invisibility changed? Screen entered and screen exited for the notifier. Let me do this. Let me go to here. branch. No. Use dash, restore. There we go. Do my changes. Projectile. I mean, visibility notifier seems to be the right thing to do. It doesn't really matter what I do right now. Okay, I'm just going to commit that as is. I remember I did the radar and stuff. I'll be right back. I just need to take a quick break. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. My wife kindly got me coffee and a donut. Okay. So I feel like I'm fighting multiple things here. That's the projectile. That's the cannon. That's the enemy. So the cannon is relative to the enemy. The cannon fires and sets its origin as being itself. Now, in reality, these two methods shouldn't need to exist anywhere but on here, right? They shouldn't need overriding. So let's just do that to start with. Which means that player projectile isn't really a thing. Enemy projectile is just a specialization. Right. It's interesting that I did it that way. But they should both set global position, right? They should emit from the global position, so they shouldn't have a difference there. So now these are not firing until they go off screen. So it's kind of flipped the logic. But I don't get why changing the projectiles emission unless it actually doesn't, unless their references are not values, in which case by doing that it's updating both in, that would have made sense. So it's not like you have to copy it, right? Because the behavior seemed to change the behavior of the enemy itself, right? And that's what's curious. Because if I do gd.print enemies on screen, actually enemy name is off screen. Tank 2 is on screen, tank is on screen. They should be firing. It's off screen, now it starts firing. Right? Why is that? So they're still calculating correctly, so that isn't changing that behavior. On firing timer, ready. That's not doing anything to it right this second. gd.print Firing. Let's see what that does. Oh. I think they're firing, they're just off screen. But I don't want that. I don't want this version. I want to run the Godot version. So I need the remote. I think they're emitting from off the screen. So they've already fired 6 times, right? So tank 1. Yep, there's 3 bullets. Now how can I find out where that is? Because I kind of want to know where that is on the screen. So they have fired, but they've actually fired from, even though they're here, it's set their position down here. So actually what's happening is they're just catching up. So they're somewhere down here and then catching up, I think. Why aren't they emitting from here, even though I set global position to the cannon? Right? So position 04, that's relative to that, which is positioned canvas area. Zero 04. $107,799. The cannon is 04. $107,799. So yeah, the Y coordinate of this bullet is way off where the tank is. By about 50% or more. And when I set it to position, it picks up the right coordinates and starts from there. So they both are behaving correctly, but the problem is that those bullets are down here somewhere, coming onto the screen. So by the time I hit up here, they've traced with me. So why is that? Why would that matter? So the enemy has a cannon. It's positioned right. It's positioned just on the front of the. No, it could go there. It doesn't really matter. It's positioned off the front of there. The player has a cannon. Why this does not? Why? What is this? I don't know what this is. Why does it not show my sprite? I have no idea. Don't know what this big triangle thing is. And it's always there, so I've done something. By the way, that's that. So again, I think the bullets are, see, they are firing. I think they're coming up. Whoa. I didn't change that. I didn't. All I changed there was the actual position of the relative position of the cannon to the tank. Unless that recompiled something. Still don't understand what this kite shape is. So I'm firing fine. Now when this goes off screen, bullet scene. But enemy fire, sorry. Enemy fire. $80. I don't know where this kite is. I don't know why they've now changed to that, because I didn't change. So they're colliding with me. Firing vector times speed. Oh, hold on. I think I know. I think I've changed something. Enemy projectile. Player projectile. No, I didn't change them. Player CS. Enemy. Tank cannon. Tank enemy. No. I guess I'm just bad at this. Game manager. All these references are intact. Grab some snacks and the bullets behaving. No, the bullets are not behaving. Now the bullets are now flying up the screen at a rate of knots when I've changed nothing to do with their velocity, so... So now I'm getting even weirder behavior. I changed... What did I change? I changed the velocity on the enemy fire. I changed the scale because I keep accidentally dragging... Somehow I keep managing to go into scale mode, and then I go and do stuff, and I'm dragging it around. That's the problem. So scale is off. But no, that's on the tank. Well, that's on the cannon. Okay. Discard changes. Okay. Let's see if that fixes that now. Reload. So what I think is happening is they are firing, but they're coming... Oh no, still got that weird behavior. See how they're shooting up the screen now? So the tank has a cannon attached to it. The cannon has enemy fire attached to it in this case, which has a... way too big. What is that? There's a way of doing this, right? Sprite 2D. Whatever, that shouldn't affect that. So the enemy fire gets attached. So there's multiple weird things happening now. Right, so basically when these go off screen, I've now got these laser beams. They're not even firing in a direction, which is problem number one. gd.print. They're attached to the cannon, which is attached to the enemy or the player. See, they're firing. Hold on, enemy fire. Why are you firing? Why did they go out as enemy fire the first time? And it stops. Oh, okay. Let's go back here. Let's remove everything that isn't those two. And I don't know what this kite thing is. I don't know where that's come from at all. So the cannon is there. Why'd that scale reset to the 30? Why does it have scale at all? What? I just reverted that change. So I think what's happening is I'm pressing Control S to save instinctively because it's the way I normally write, and then I'm hitting S separately, which is putting me in scale mode. But even then, they're moving too fast. But they're not physics based, are they? Okay, there's the bullet. Now they're tiny. But why is the cannon dictating? One-to-one. Yeah. It's the parent of the bullets, but it's. There's a bullet. There's a bullet. There's a bullet. Okay. So the cannon scale decides the actual bullet scale. They're still wrong. Okay, so the children inherit scale. So if this is scaled, that's scaled, that's scaled. Okay, so everything. So that's scale 1-to-1. That's now 1-to-1. The bullets are 1-to-1. Okay, so aside from creating yet another manager with yet more responsibility, to wrap it up, I don't, again, why would I create another manager class to track that? Like, what is the benefit of doing that? Like, it seems like the way to do this is just to create God classes that know about everything, and then just pass everything around, which is kind of what my disagreement with. That's not showing the player. I don't understand that. So the problem right now is that enemy projectile, if I set the position using global position the same way I do from the, if I play the game, right, I can fire bullets from my player, right, but now the enemy bullets, which are now a bit too slow, but either the enemy bullets are being fired off of screen. They're not emitting from the thing on the screen, even though I'm set into global position of. It's not so much. So you create a bullet manager in the root node and then attach bullets to it so that it stays. But what's the difference in that? So if I do that, then the bullet manager has all the nodes attached to it. The tank, if I using this, I can see that tank has emitted bullets. But if I do it as a manager node, then it just has all the bullets attached to it. It's just, this is when it becomes counterintuitive to me. But that's not my main problem right this second. My main problem is the moment I do enemy fire, it's positioning it off screen, which I can't trace because the remote node doesn't tell me where the actual position of the element is. So if I play, the firing timer is working as it should, right? If I pause this now and go into remote, the cannon has fired. Why is the first one it spawns is enemy fire, and then it spawns new instances of enemy fire. Well, because that's always attached to it. Okay, so that's a copy of it attached to cannon. But either way, I can't see where they are, but they are wrong, because their position is 445, 518, but the tank is 356, 747. So when I fired it, I set it to global position of the cannon, whose 04 position. Can I see global position? No. So tank 1 and tank 2 have both fired a bullet at this point. But the position of that is nowhere near. But there's no preview window, right? Like there would be in a Unity. I can't see where those things are on the screen. Enemy fire. So if I'm moving the plane around, oh, this is driving me crazy. I can't get my head around where everything's sitting. Why the first two enemy fire and then the second two are area 2Ds? Interesting. Because again, if I carry on playing, it's still firing, still firing, still firing, right? They're not on screen yet. Even if I set a bullet manager and attach them to the bullet manager, I'd still have to position them relative to the thing that fired them. So that doesn't make a difference. And that's what sets the origin. So it sets the origin to the global position of the weapon that fired it. Now, in the enemy case, if I set that to position, they'll emit from the enemy. In the player, I set it from global position from the player. Now, the only difference is where they sit in the scene tree, right? So, but if global position is global position, the area 2D nodes are on what object? The area 2D, in that case, they're attached to the tank has a cannon attached to it. The cannon emits the bullet. The bullet is attached to the cannon. Godot docks to the help. Well, the visible screen is not the problem. The visible is not the problem. it's firing the visibility at the right. Yeah, it takes a frame, but that's okay. So there's a minor pause. Helps to keep it simple instead of being clever. I'm not trying to be clever. I'm trying to organize the code in a way that is, again, makes sense to me. I'm not trying to be overly clever with it, but simple seems to be everything needs to know about everything else, and that's the problem I have. That's the entire problem I have with what I see as game development, is everything kind of ends up with a reference to everything. It's the simplest way to do it. Does the timer? Yeah, the timer starts. I've verified the timer starts. The timer definitely starts correctly. Again, gd.print name is on screen. Right, so if I start this up now, tank is on screen, tank is on screen. It's firing, see? It is firing, but it has there's nothing on screen because it's firing, and that's its vector, which again is another problem. But they are firing, they are emitting said projectiles. So these are not the issue. I'm confident that I'm removing noise. That's all I'm removing that from. Right. No. The problem is that when it emits the projectile, so as a player, if I start this up as a player, right, I'm flying around, I fire. The bullets are emitting from my player. If you wait until these go, and it's just the virtue of these being off screen. See, the bullets are starting to come on the screen here. It might be hard to see on stream, but they're there, right? The problem is that they're being spawned further down the screen. So they're coming up onto the screen at the same time. They are being fired, but they're off screen and coming and chasing me up the screen. If I make them faster, you'll probably see them even quicker. So even though I'm setting the projectiles in the exact same way to the global position of the weapon that fired them, right? So the cannon is attached to the enemy, and the cannon and the same. It's a cannon attached to the player. They both emit different bullets because I've attached the different bullet scenes to them, right? But they are the same. When I fire, they emit the bullet, and that sets the global position when I set origin. So the cannon here sets origin. But in the instance of the player, this works fine, but in the instance of the enemy, it doesn't work. And the vector of it firing is nothing to do with it at this point. I could make that vector up and it'd be fine. It'd do the same thing. So, and if I look at the coordinates are off. And that's why I don't understand. Let's use a visual help. Don't want to overload you with more Godot stuff, but it helps. Let's draw a line from origin position of the bullet to the player. Well, so projectile, public, override draw, line from to, no, I want to do it on the enemy projectile, don't I? colors start red, 2F. That's interesting. Shouldn't that update to where my target is? Since you can, sorry, Patrick. Since you can accurately detect if the tank is within the view screen, can you not just despawn the tank? Yeah, the tank does despawn. When it goes off screen, well, it stops firing. But how do I do it? I do exit it. How do I do that? Because it stops firing. But I could despawn it. Yeah, but that's not the problem right this second. Again, I probably can clean that up later. They're not spawned when on screen. Else it would. Yeah, exactly. They're not being spawned from the position that they say they're firing from. Flagging the enemy class which corresponds to whether or not the enemy's on screen allows. Right. I mean, that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm basically using the visibility trigger, which is working fine. This is working fine, right? It just starts the timer, so it fires on a timer, right? That's okay. I'm almost out of time. This is driving me nuts, though. But the line is not starting. Yeah, I see what you mean, though. Yeah, Captain Fubar. The line doesn't touch my player, but I think the coordinate systems are just not lined up. If I'm honest. I think I've either missed something, or I've misconfigured something that means that they're not in line with each other. Again, if we do, oh, watch this. Let's have a look. So initially, I was making the ground move I wasn't making the ground move. I was making the camera move, but the world map is what's moving down the screen. So the actual root node is not changing. So everything should be relative to its origin, I suppose. So global position is global position. The world map moves down the screen. The tanks are positioned on the world map so that they stay in place as the world map moves. But their global position, again, should be relative, right? Okay, so there's the first bullet fire, right? So again, allowing for that change. So if we go to target is there. Target is a player, and its global position is 4, -1. But my global position yeah, that's a little off, isn't it? They're not that far apart. If you're just looping the ground and roll with the stationary player object, then you want everything set relative to the player's ship in some fashion. Super long ground, and you're moving the player forward along it, then you'll want to use that as your absolute coordinate reference. But that's a bit of a disparity. So that's okay. So now, oh, sorry, target. Why is the Y changing, but the X is not? Hmm. It's awesome. The global position of the target. So if I remove the breakpoint and we resume, right? So if I had another bullet, I've moved the player around. Hello, lurking because I'm making some food. No worries, Shy. No worries, Shy. Thank you for the look. Appreciate it. So if we F10 over that, global position, negative 11, negative 50. These coordinate systems do not seem like each other, do they? No, I'm not asking you to go off and try and make the game and say, here's how I would do it. I'm trying to learn through. I am trying to fumble through this a little bit, right? You know, it's not like I'm new to development, but this way of thinking, the things that are, the tools, the libraries, etc., that I got to use, right? I get that you would do it differently, but the point is that these are things that I've got stuck on. I do not do well trying to follow someone else's code. I'm a practical learner in that once I get through this and I understand it, it'll make more sense to me. But I've got to kind of get that aha moment, and you know, as frustrating as that might be for someone to watch, and I appreciate it. I really do appreciate the help. It's great to have people who know what they're doing. I just hope it's not frustrating too much. So, if the global position, why is this global position so far off the screen? If everything is relative to a global 0, 0, right? Because even if I'm moving, even if the world map's moving down, my global position is moving. The camera isn't moving. But like I'm on double-digit coordinates and the bullets are on triple-digit coordinates. Just want to help figure out your robot. I mean, you're more than welcome to check out the code and tinker with it. But I don't, again, I've got to get over some things. I've got to learn some things. I don't like the idea of having these God classes that understand everything, because that's kind of one of the things that frustrates me the most and I get stuck on. So I don't like things knowing about everything. That bugs me. But that's because of my way of designing code is to structure them in responsibilities, right? So it's pivoting my way of thinking. But I don't think that's my issue here. My issue is I'm not understanding a relationship somewhere. Oh, because that's half scale. Okay, yeah. There's no such thing as an absolute position. Every position is relative to something. I wonder if this is global quad system is set to where. But it should be main. Main should be the root of everything, right? But the idea is the global position should be the same relative position regardless of where they are. No worries, Wesley. Thank you very much for the look. Appreciate it. Zero zero global should be generally the top left of the viewport. Global position is always relative to the root node of the main scene. Right. So everything should be global to that, regardless of whether it's relative to each other. So the global position of something should be the global position of it, right? A piece of dog toy attached to my coffee cup. But it doesn't have to be within the constraints of the viewport, is because it's a global. I think what's happening is the bullets are being positioned down here. When I get up to here, they're catching me. So what? Let's prove that actually. I can prove that by going into my components, my enemy fire, right? I can set the speed to 160, which means it should catch me sooner, right? So if this is the case, then it's off screen, it's being fired. This should catch up me sooner. There you go. And again, we'll make them even quicker. So again, we should see them appear. Right? But the weird thing is, again, when I fire from the player, so the player is set up this way with a cannon attached to it, right? And a bullet scene, that's the regular bullet scene. There's nothing else different about it. It's attached to the cannon. The player has the cannon attached to it, right? So when I fire, that's the cannon I'm using. In the enemy, it has a cannon attached to it, right? And when it fires, so the enemy script fires, right? The enemy script says cannon fire. There's no difference between me pressing space and this happening. So when it fires, it instantiates. This is all the same regardless of where it is. It sets the origin, and setting the origin sets the global position equal to the weapon global position. So it's as if the weapon in this case for these is off down here. There are some weird differences if you assign positions for an object before or after putting it on the tree. In some cases, it compounds with position of the parent. I think you want to set the bullet to 0, 0. Zero, zero. 0, 0. But it's not a relative. If I change it to position, it will fire directly from. If I change this to position for the enemy, it will work. But if I do it for the player, it won't work. So it is as if they're using totally different coordinate systems. See, that's. But it. Bullet's coordinate system is probably relative to the tank that fired it. But if that's why I'm using global position to get rid of that difference, right? Feels almost ready. How's it going with the game? The game, I'm learning. I'm definitely learning. I'm finding frustrations, which is always going to be the case. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Day off today. Gonna finish this up in a little while, and then go do some house stuff. But again, it works fine if the player's firing it. The only difference is the player is here and the tanks are here. I mean, watch that. Let's prove it, because now they're in the same space. Right? Does it fire from there? Nope. The weird thing is, their target is me. I mean, that's the way that suggests it, right? But either something I've done, but either way, them being a child of that makes no difference. So even if they're on the same exact plane as the player, again, their position So you think, but sure, that would be, you think that the order? You're right. I mean, that creates some weird behavior. Because it added it and then it moved it instantly. Um, but look where it's drawing the line from. So it is emitting from. So now it is emitting from the weapon, right? But its global position is still wrong. So if we watch, it'll fire from the weapon now, which is correct, which I could probably slow that down again now. So its starting position is correct. But then when I go to the draw, its global position is still wrong. Right? It's not being affected by the player. It's stopped firing, that's correct. But if I put the draw line back, its global position is still off screen. The line is also not representative, really, but watch. See, the line comes up off the bottom of the screen. The line shouldn't actually follow, but is your game scaled? There's a zoom on the camera of 2.8. The main map is not. The world map is scaled 0.5. So, if you're new to the stream, this is not my normal path, as might be apparent. I'm normally an application developer. I do development of apps on stream. Game development is something that I've always found fascinating and would love to learn more about. And I'm trying to just learn my way through this, and it's just my way of learning is not the most organized way for certain. But I'm more of a practical learner. So, hold on. So you asked the question, so let's verify. This is going to be a little harder to see. Do I have a tank in that initial scene? I do not, do I? Move down there. Player. Hold on. Let's put that back in there. Oh, the draw line's there already. Why is that not drawing a line now, though? Why does that do enemy fire and then 4, 5, enemy fire 6, 7? That's interesting that the draw line doesn't fire now. The tank should have been the right size as well now. So initially, the reason why it's scaled is because of that. Right, so now it's off screen. Ah, there's the lines. Interesting. I mean, it looks like missile command, but it definitely knows where I am now. So are we saying that the scaling can mess with the... Why does the camera change that behavior, though? Why does that change anything? So the problem I have is obviously now I have... actually, if I do editor project settings, so if I do Viewport 600. I mean, that's tiny now. But interesting, the late... Oh dear. Okay. Well, that's driving me nuts. So, the origin point, the global position of those guns is still not where they are on the screen. Because those red lines should not come from off the screen. They should emit from the same point. Because the draw line is from the global position of the thing, correct? The firing vector is meant to be calculated at the time that it becomes ready, so that it actually has a direction. Okay. So the code is all up on GitHub. If anyone wants to play with it, you're more than welcome to. I'm not looking for someone to come in and say, here's a PR, it fixes all your problems. That's not what I'm after. I'm learning here. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to understand why I might do these things, because I do want to build a game. This is just the first game that came to mind that was like, okay, that seems like it's got some relatively simple ideas with some potentially complex mechanics in it. I didn't expect to be struggling in this way, but oh well, this is it, right? But you're more than welcome to check out the code and have a look if you want, and if you see anything that you think is relayable, then that's fine. But yeah, I'm not looking for someone to say, here, I fixed your game for you. All right. My best guess is that draw just ignores camera zoom and uses the viewport coords. I mean, yeah. I mean, that doesn't need to be there right this second. I mean, the bullets are firing, but the problem is their firing vector is still being calculated incorrectly, right? No matter what we do here. So the idea would be that when the bullet is fired, it tries to identify where the player is at that point. Because again, the bullets should basically trace you in an arc. If you go around, the bullet should be basically just behind you. The aim is not to have a bullet directly hit you, it's to make it so that the screen is so difficult to move around. That's more of a bullet hell shooter, right? Yeah. Yeah, the bullets and nodes that are added. The draw call was just to try and debug where it thinks it's going, and it clearly is not quite the same. At least with it set, with all the scaling removed, the bullets are emitting from the same place. So the scale clearly has an impact on where global position actually is. Welcome back, Wesley. Unfortunately, I have to go. I've got some stuff I need to do around the house today, and if the weather stays nice, maybe grill. It's 11 a.m. here, so that's fine. So again, you know, you're more than welcome to check out the code. It is there on GitHub. Removed draw call. But yeah, I'm not looking for anyone to do a PR or say, hey, here's it fixed. So things I've got to learn about, right? What does the scale matter? The zoom, etc. I can live with it kind of moving up the screen bit by bit, right? That's That's one thing. But this is a very different way of thinking and some different challenges. So, One Line, thank you very much. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate it. Hope your day is going well. Hope you're not working too hard. So, I am going to call this here. We're going to go right over to Fullbots, I think. Assuming it isn't finished already. He's doing his graphics for Steam and also creating some more balls belts of it. What the project offline. If I can get back to this today, I'll definitely tinker with this today. But I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow morning is a regular stream, a 2-hour stream. I'll be back on this as soon as I've done some water admin with Dota, and then yeah, see if I can figure this out. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for all the help. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate the input. It is really fantastic to have people who know what they're doing. It's interesting to see the challenges aren't just necessarily, it could be the way I'm doing it, it could be all sorts of things. So we'll get there, and that's the point. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining me. I will see you around soon, and take care. Have a good day all.